Now to the question of, why it matters in the corporate world, and then of course also for our Gen Zs.
Yeah. So like I said, being a combination of self mastery and interpersonal skills coming together. So what happens is, why is it important? Like, I said earlier that sometimes people act impulsively, right? And it's as if people are functioning on autopilot mode. So when they get triggered, they act in the most natural way that they know of, and many times they don't think of consequences. So very often I hear the younger generation saying that, oh, I didn't agree with my boss on something, and so I just put in my papers. So sometimes that is what can come in the way. Just wanted to quote one more example. I was actually doing a session for a young group of people, and just people who had entered the workforce. And so what had happened was that the first wave, the pandemic wave, had hit, and there was this young girl who was sitting in my session, and she was also she had been appointed as a coordinator. So there were several phone calls that she was receiving, that now my family members got fever, so now should I come to work, or things of that nature, because there was so much of uncertainty at that time. Now, to begin with, I mean, I would have expected that the person steps out and receives those calls. She continued sitting over there. And, so different people trying to tell her, not to disturb the session, but, that self-awareness somewhere that she's disrupting a session was also not there. I think I would also like to give it to her that maybe she was so interested that she wanted to continue sitting there. At 5 around, we were sort of winding down the session, and suddenly she stood up, and she had a message in her cell phone to say that the government has implemented section 144, which entails that not more than 5 people can come together in a place. And that sort of overtook her so overwhelmingly that she just stood up and she made this big announcement, and everyone else sort of helped her to say that, okay, we can see that we're sort of winding down, so let's just wait for another 5-10 minutes and we'll all be out of here. So these sort of behaviors is what I'm referring to when I'm talking about the impulsive acts, and without really considering or without really filtering as to, okay, if I just sort of stand up and in the middle of a session, what could be the repercussions? Or if I just handed my papers just because in the heat of the moment, what could be the repercussions? So that is one very big reason why it is now taking so much of prominence in personal and corporate areas as well. So this is point number one. The second point is that very often there is a lack of connecting with people, and because the Gen Zs are so much on their devices, and they interact with people on their devices rather than face to face. So very often what happens is that when they actually do come face to face, sometimes there could be some sort of a lack of sensitivity to how others could be feeling. Sometimes I've seen them just sort of passing certain comments which they think is a joke, but it may not be taken too well by the other person, right? So and the social skills of how really to influence somebody, how really to negotiate a situation that is not going their way. So that is another reason why now corporates are really looking at how do we get people to learn those skills and come together so that they can work together. And that leads me to the third point, which is learning to work as a team. So I think the younger generation, the Gen Zs, are really great at working on their own. They're very quick on the uptake, they're smart, at the same time to come together, work with different personality types, and work through differences of opinion is something that it seems to be an ongoing issue that corporates face. And that is the reason why corporates are now giving so much of importance to the education of emotional intelligence. And all these things, I think, play a big role in personal lives as well. I mean, impulsive acts, or even in a family situation, you need to get along with your family members and have those conversations rather than just be on devices.